Australia's medical watchdog has been condemned for its handling of a scandal affecting hundreds of patients. The Senate has just completed an inquiry into hip replacements that leached metal and made many patients sick. It accuses medical regulators of dragging their feet before the device was removed from the market. Now 2 class actions are underway and politicians are pressuring the authorities to tighten the rules. Hayden Cooper reports.
This is the device that's caused so much pain to so many patients around the world. A metal-on-metal hip replacement now withdrawn from the Australian market, but not in time.
I had a lot of bone loss inside my femur, virtually the stem of the prosthesis. I was about to break the top of my femur bone off, and I needed to have the hip out straight away. So what's in here, Joe?
Bob Lugton is now back on his feet after a horror run at the hands of this major medical scandal. It began with an operation to fit a new hip, but instead of a gradual recovery, his condition got worse until the device had to be removed.
They had to split my femur open, take the back of my femur out. My bones were full of a grey, sludgy material.
It was a case of metal poisoning. The grinding of the hip released cobalt and chromium into the patient's bloodstream, attacking the joints, tissue and muscles surrounding the hip.
This is the hip that came out of me. This is a Johnson & Johnson DePuy hip, and it moves around like that. And as it's moving around, it sheds metal particles.
But his wasn't the only case. 5,500 Australians have had this hip implanted. Until now, almost 500 have had to go back and have it removed. More could follow.
This is a ticking time bomb for hundreds, if not thousands, of Australian patients, and that's why the TGA needs to be held to account here.
That's the report. And
Nick Xenophon set up the Senate inquiry that's now delivered a rebuke to Australia's system of medical regulation, a system run by the Therapeutic Goods Administration, or TGA. The committee was shocked by the intolerable and unacceptable experiences of patients, the report says. The failure of the TGA to act in a more timely and decisive manner is regrettable. The committee believes that there may be many thousands of Australians who continue to be unaware of these issues. This is clearly unacceptable.
The TGA, as watchdog, took too long to act. The delay was completely unacceptable. I have constituents in South Australia who are severely ill because they had the devices implanted well after the TGA became aware of these problems.
Graham Mercer represents the nation's orthopaedic surgeons. He agrees the TGA was slow to react to the emerging disaster. Serious doubts about the device were first raised in 2007. It wasn't removed from the market until 2009.
Look, I think there was some reticence to act on behalf of the TGA, and certainly since that time we've been working with the TGA to rectify that speed of transfer of information.
But patients like Bob Lugton say the surgeons too have many questions to answer, like why did some continue using the hips after doubts had been raised?
Something drove surgeons to continually keep putting this hip in, even after they knew. They continually kept putting this hip in until we had 5,500 or more of these hips in.
In particular, there were designer surgeons who may have been involved in the design of the prosthesis, who felt that because they had particular training and particular skill, that they could still use this prosthesis with less complications than their fellows. I think what's been shown subsequently is that even in the best of hands, this prosthesis at the end of the day was going to have a higher than anticipated rate of revision.
We need to go down the US path and legislate for medical practitioners to disclose to patients the gifts, the inducements they get from pharmaceutical companies and medical device manufacturers. That is absolutely essential.
the ASR device...
The Senate inquiry recommends more rigorous scrutiny and testing of devices before they're put on the Australian market. It wants authorities to do better at tracking the performance of devices after they're implanted, and it's concerned that there are simply too many approved in the first place.
We can't just continue allowing manufacturers to come to Australia and offer up anything, even if it doesn't hold any advantages to either the patient or the system.
That report from Hayden Cooper.